Hey guys, Zedd here, bringing you another Xianghua video. Today it's just going to be kind of a bit of a discussion. I want to talk today to you guys about how I feel about Xianghua in the current metagame. Now, for those who maybe don't know or haven't played Soul Calibur in a few weeks, or maybe aren't really on the up and up right now, Soul Calibur has become basically a game of who can deal the most guard damage the fastest, and it's not even about breaking the guard, it's about keeping the opponent in the red, because when your guard gauge is in the red, that is a serious problem, and you're forced to go on the offense to deal with it now, because of the various nerfs to to GI and reverse ledge. And again, for those who don't know, I will reiterate it for you. Guard impact and reverse ledge both take away guard gauge, meaning you're netting a loss of guard meter for a successful guard impact and reversal edge. So what that means is they've now taken the defensive mechanic, or Bamco has taken the defensive mechanics that were used in place to either retake your turn, make an appropriate read, or gain your guard gauge back. And now even if you're right, you will then proceed to lose guard gauge. So in the case of GI, you are netting a loss of 5. And in the case of reversal edge, I believe it is, I'm sorry, I actually forget at the moment, but it's around minus 10 guard gauge. So this is kind of an issue. Reversal edge was already a super risky thing to use, and it was very niche in its application. And them hurting it further in a way that nobody asked for is a very confusing change. And what I mean by when nobody asked for it, nobody thought, oh man, reverse ledge really gives a lot of guard gauge back. No, I know me personally, I used it a little bit for that function, but I used it mostly for those niche scenarios where it's a good option. But a lot of people complained about the meter gain on reverse ledge, but then they nerfed the guard gauge, so I'm a little confused about that one. And then in the case of GI, I never felt like GI was an overly oppressive mechanic in the first place, because even if you landed GI, you're having to guess, depending on the level of GI, you're having to go for either launcher, break attack, or a lethal hit. So I didn't think it was an issue personally, but they nerfed them both. And so now here we are in what I'm calling the guard gauge meta. So all of that, prefacing my discussion here about Xianghua. One of Xianghua's biggest weaknesses, kind of one of her only weaknesses to be completely honest, is her guard gauge damage. Now, she does have some moves that deal decent guard damage, so I'll just set this opponent to guard everything so we can kind of see this as we go. And noting that the guard crush meter above my head is for the opponent. Okay, so moves like Wall Rising B, right, 14%, that's pretty good. Whoops, that's pretty good. Or even, 2-2K, 15%, not bad. And then, BK at 9%, it's starting to get a bit lower, but for Xianghua, not bad. And when you break a guard with B Slide K, it has no scaling, so it's good to break the guard, but it's not good to deal the guard damage. So if you weren't using basically Wall Rising B, right, you truly weren't really getting any guard crush meter, and the reason why is 2-2K is incredibly slow and linear. It's very easy to sidestep. Yes, it has tech jump frames, so if you make the call out on a low, it's a good option, but you're probably going to hit the opponent anyway. And if you do, then you can just convert into, the full combo anyway. But regardless, the main issue with Xianghua is her guard crush, or lack thereof, I should say. Because not only does she not really deal any serious guard damage, she has the issue of being a short-range character. And when you're playing a short-range character like Xianghua, it's frequent that you're not even attacking much at all. And when you're not attacking your opponent is gaining guard gauge. So, the amount of guard damage that you actually do is then mitigated just because of footsies and the way that Xianghua plays out, at least at a high level. Yeah, it can stay in their face, but as I've talked about many times in my videos, Xianghua has so many different pokes that are frankly, they're just gonna hit, right? Your 2Ks, your 3As, your 1A slide G, well now that's a mix-up, right? Or just letting it rip 1A, 1K, like all these different buttons, they're going to hit, and her AA being an I-10 is huge, right? That's big damage, or it's not big damage. It's a big benefit for her having an I-10. So you know, all these moves in conjunction, right? 4BA, great button. AA, great button. AAB, great button. BB, not bad, right? 3A. Look at how little guard damage I'm doing, right? Like, we're talking like 3 to 5% on average for her, which is garbage. It's garbage, you know? Like, this isn't bad. You get 9%, but, I mean, still not great. So, my point is to say Xianghua cannot maintain the amount of damage she has done to the opponent's guard, period. Okay? Why is this a problem? This is a problem because you as a Xianghua player, let's say we're playing against a character like, you know, Ivy or Aswell, Astaroth, Songmina. Take your pick, right? Pick your poison. All those characters have very far-reaching attacks, which is fine. That's not the issue. The issue comes from the fact that as the Xianghua player, as we're trying to get in, we are blocking many attacks and we're trying to evade where we can, but you're not going to be perfect. And, you know, in some cases, like if it's a mid-horizontal, you have to block it or GI it. Well, guess what? If you go to GI it now, you're still netting a guard loss as opposed to a neutral or gain. And if you're blocking the attack, now we're getting, you know, pushed back. Okay, so now we have to start all over again. And now we've probably just taken somewhere in the realm of, you know, I don't know, let's just say 8 to 15 guard damage, right? It depends on the move, obviously, but just to be vague, approximately 10 to 12. How about that? So not only have we now been pushed back, we now have taken a tenth of our guard gauge just because. And this is probably going to happen to you 2 or 3 times before you actually make it to the opponent to do what? Oh boy, now I get a 2K, or I get an AAB, or I get a 4BA, right? So by the time we actually get in, where's the threat? You know, it's not really there, to be completely honest, as Xianghua's damage isn't super good. So you're kind of stuck, and you can't use her lethal hits either because, you know, I've tried to do this before many times. You use 4 A plus B to range with horizontal attacks, and the first hit just whiffs, and the second hit, even on lethal hit, you know, doesn't pop them up correctly. So you don't even get the correct combo. So it's super dumb. And to top that all off, Xianghua's guard break attack is garbage. It's a high, telegraphed, thrusting vertical, and canceling into stance is an option, but it doesn't do anything for you in terms of guard damage. So, yeah, I don't know. She's in a weird place in terms of dealing guard damage, as well as taking it. One thing I would do as a Xianghua player is I used to GI the buttons and footsies where I could, and then use those frames to simply get in, as opposed to going for this stupid lethal hit condition, which I don't like very much. So, you know, this isn't really an option for me. I don't like doing this anymore. So I'm being forced now to just evade constantly. And in one wrong guess, and I'm either eating a hit, or I'm eating, like I said, a tenth of the guard gauge. So I'm kind of repeating myself here, but the reason why is because it's so difficult for her to deal guard damage as it is, but now it's even more difficult for her to get hers back. And she's not the only one who suffers from this problem, to be fair. So I think that, like, Xianghua is still a super good character, but with the changes to Reverse Ledge and GI, it actually had, like, overwhelming effect on the metagame and just what characters were popular. And then, of course, like, Siegfried got some huge buffs, so, like, he's top 3 now, because not only does he have really solid tools now and evasive moves, he also has freaking super good guard damage, right? And even if you know the Siegfried matchup very well, which I personally do, you're still going to be blocking a lot of his attacks, just strictly because of pressure and speed. And it really sucks playing against characters like Ivy, as well as Songmina, Astaroth, Siegfried. As Xianghua, when I'm getting launched back, like, let's just think about Astaroth 2-2B for a minute here. I probably should have swapped to him, but this 2-2B is a vertical launch attack that, like, punts your ass way back. Like, we're literally talking probably a character and a half of block, you know, distance, and it does good guard damage. Like, you can't really deal with that move as Xianghua if you're not ready for it, and it's not good. It's not fun. By the time I get into my opponent, I'm like flickering yellow and maybe even red, and like Okay, cool. I'm in the red now, but now I keep getting pushed away constantly. And, you know, GIing? No, not an option. Reverse sledging? Nah, you don't want to do that either. So we have to just constantly evade and work our way in. And I'm not super pleased with the metagame because it does favor guard damage based characters, which most of them are already strong anyway, looking at you, Astaroth Ivy Sungmina. So, yeah. Anyway, you know, kind of a rant, but, you know, discussion as well. Point is, to summarize it all, I think Xianghua is not in a good place right now in terms of the metagame. In terms of a tier list, yeah, she's still great. She still has like 1,001 different tools, um, with only like 5 weaknesses. But the guard gauge is a serious issue for her. Like her worst matchups, her worst matchups just got even more worse, and her better matchups didn't get any better, right? So indirectly, Xianghua got a serious nerf, just the way the game is designed. So yeah, anyway, rant over. That's my thoughts on the current state of Xianghua in the metagame, and just so that, you know, just to try to defend myself, not that I really need to. Azul's my secondary character. He deals with the poor matchups quite well. It is so easy to win with Azul now. Well, I mean, easier, I should say. I mean, I've been a good Azul, and he's been my secondary since launch, but playing him is so much easier to get a W than Xianghua, which is sad, because I put about 4 times the time into Xianghua than I have Azul. So if that doesn't say that the guard damage is an issue, I don't know what does. And I do probably average around 2 to 3 breaks. I'm not kidding. I average 2 breaks with Azul. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are in this current metagame. I'll be honest with you, I don't know if it affects casual play. I don't know if it affects like average players. I really don't, but I know at the high level or competitive level, it's kind of cancer, and I hate it. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Don't take it personally, but yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble on. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day.